Welcome. We will get started at 2 minutes after the hour, at the top of the hour. So you have time to get yourself something to drink and stretch out before we get started. Again, welcome.
Okay.
We're glad to have you. Thank you.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Hello.
Welcome, Lucas.
How are you today?
I'm awesome. And yourself?
Not too bad. Not too bad at all.
Good. We're going to start at about 2 minutes after the top of the hour. So you have
Okay.
a chance to get coffee, water, whatever you need.
Perfect.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Glad to have you. Thank you.
Yeah, glad to be here. Yeah, I'm just getting started with this company, so trying to figure out everything there is to know about Sumo.
Sounds good.
Thank you.
Welcome. Welcome, Mr. Ali. We'll get started 2 minutes after the top of the hour, allow others to join. So you still have time to get water, take a break, what have you. 2 minutes after the top of the hour. Welcome, Jeffrey. We will start about 2 minutes after the top of the hour. So you still have time to get coffee or water if you like. Again, 2 minutes at the top of the hour. Welcome. We're glad to have you. For those of you that just joined, welcome again. We will start the lecture with 2 minutes after the top of the hour. So again, you still have a couple minutes to grab coffee or water. Again, welcome. We're glad to have you. We'll give others a chance to join us as well. I'd like to welcome you all. We'll get started about 2 minutes after the hour. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
Welcome to all of those that are joining us. Welcome. We're going to get started in another 2 minutes to allow others to join. Again, 2 minutes after the top of the hour, we'll start lecture. Thank you and welcome. We'll get started in another minute. Welcome all of you that just joined, allowing others the opportunity to join as well. So we'll get started in about 1 minute. Okay, let's get started. Again, welcome everyone. My name is Odell Gordon. I am a technical trainer here at Sumo Logic, and we're glad to have you for this Sumo Journalist Fundamental Certification session. My background is I've been in IT for about 30 years now. I've played several roles. I've been a database administrator. I've worked in DevOps, and of course, I've been a technical and still am a technical trainer. I'm calling in from the Midwest. I kind of handle the Midwest area, but you know, it's nice. The sun is going down here So I have a light shining in the background on my end. Hopefully you guys are somewhere nice and comfortable as well. As I mentioned, you're going to participate in this fundamentals certification, and we'll go ahead and get started. So what we're going to do here in this fundamental certification session is we're going to give you an overview of Sumo Logic. Okay. Then I will demonstrate by demoing a monitoring and troubleshooting scenario for you, just to kind of give you that idea of some of the opportunities that you can create in here. Then you and I will get the opportunity to get into hands-on labs. You will have credentials that I'll give you, and you'll log into our training environment where we will be able to view all the data that's available, the logs and the metrics. We'll then be able to search and parse and analyze that data. And with our analysis, we'll be able to identify some trends. We'll look at some critical events by monitoring. Then we'll create and modify some dashboards that will also allow us to create some alerts. And then finally, after the lecture, you'll have 60 minutes to be able to get certified in the Sumo Generalist Fundamentals exam. Speaking of getting certified, again, we are happy to have you join our session. One of the things we're going to do, and I'll post this during the actual exam time, we want you to get a Uber Eats $15 voucher because of your passing of the certification exam. Again, I'll fill this form, put this form in the chat for you as we get closer to the exam or while we're doing the exam. You also can fill out this form if you've taken other courses as well with us, okay? So let's look at the big 500-foot overview. And one of the things that I'll do is I'll release some of this bandwidth and I'll turn off my video and you guys can focus on the lecture and the slides, of course. So how does Sumo Logic help me? That's the first thing we got to think about. And if we look at a 500-foot overview, what I'm focusing on right now here is these 4 dashboards. These are examples of dashboards that you can create within our tool. As I mentioned early on in my career, I worked in DevOps as well. Okay, I have to come in, log into the Unix console, then I'd have to find the actual directory where the logs are, and then I'd have to do some greps to search within the logs. But had I had the CIP, the Continuous Intelligence Platform that Sumo Logic offers, my job would have been light years easier. For example, if I would have had an operational intelligence dashboard, I could have found out if all of our systems was up. I could have found out if there was any issues that I need to identify and resolve. I could have gleaned information about the health of our systems. Okay, that's just one example of a dashboard that deals with the operational perspective. Now we think of another example from a security perspective. I want to find out who's logging into our intranet and from where. Is anyone using the root access? Are users logging in from multiple locations simultaneously? So I could have gleaned that type of information from a security intelligence dashboard. A business perspective, I could have built a business intelligence dashboard and finding out what's in demand. What web pages are my customers frequently viewing? What are they ordering? We issued a marketing campaign last month. How successful is it? So that type of information I could have gleaned from a business perspective, a business intelligence dashboard. And then finally, from a global perspective, I want to compare how my company is compared to other companies, observing my data worldwide. So that global perspective. Those 4 dashboards are just examples of what you can create in the continuous intelligence platform. Now, let's look at your data. When we talk about your data, we're talking about massive volumes of machine-generated data, such as your logs and your metrics and your traces and your metadata. All of that has been coming from your metadata, whether it's stored in an app, a microservices in the cloud, a SaaS service, wherever your data, your metrics and logs are, we want to be able to query those and find out what the issues are. Now, what do we offer? Our analytics. We feature a multi-tenancy environment where your information is very secure. We have advanced analytics within our tool. We have machine learning within our tool as well. For example, you could very easily plot your data on a map box plot. You can use machine learning to identify any new security threats. Because we are a cloud-based environment, it's elastic. So if you want to scale up or scale out, we can meet your needs as well. Okay. You're going to see some of those advanced analytics in my actual lecture coming up. Okay. Application programming interfaces. Again, we support them. Some companies may want to incorporate Sumo Logic inside of their other products. Security. What you see over here to the right of the security is our security certifications and our attestments. Okay, so we are SOC 2 certified. We're FedRAMP certified. We're HIPAA certified. And that's just a small capture of our certifications. Okay, we keep our certifications up to date and at the forefront of our core of values. One of our key core values is we are in it with our customers. And again, we take pride in our security and our attestments. And then finally, down at the bottom, your people. What we mean by this is you can achieve collaboration across all lines of your business, where you can facilitate and collaborate, and decision-making can be done, again, shared across all lines of your business. So that's just like a 500-foot overview of, oh, I can build some dashboards to glean information. I can also set some alerts, and you're going to see that as well. My data will be uploaded. They offer different types of analytics within the tool, and our people will be able to share and find out information across all lines of our business. Now, monitoring and troubleshooting. What you're seeing on the slide here is 3 phases of monitoring and troubleshooting. Okay. The first phase is being alerted, being notified of a critical event. We have the ability for you to set alerts in Slack. You can create webhooks to other types of alerting systems, Datadog, HipChat. Okay, so those are just a small microcosm of some of the alerting mechanisms that you have in our tool. Once you get alerted, then you want to look at your metrics to identify what's going on. Once you find out what's going on, then you're going to look at your logs to identify why it happened. Okay, I'm going to give you a scenario right now and give you a demo of that particular process. Okay, all right. Let me share my screen with you. I am going to go ahead and log in. So as I mentioned, I worked in DevOps before, okay? And one of the things that I could have done is set up an alert system, okay? And I'm going to go ahead and make sure that I can get in here. Awesome. And that alert system could have notified me if there was any issues, okay? So I'm about to demonstrate working for, let's say, a travel company, and that travel company I'm working in DevOps. I need to be notified and alerted when there's any issues, okay? Again, don't worry about the actual CIP right now. I'm gonna give you the opportunity to get in, kick the tires, etc. Okay. So let's get down into come on. All right. So again, let's imagine that I came into the CIP, the actual system. And each morning I come in, I log in the CIP, and let's say I look at my production server, okay? In my production server, I have several folders. Within there, I have an operations folder. Within that folder, I have an operational overview. So I'm actually going down to folders that has a dashboard in it, okay? This is one approach. Again, I work for the Travel Logic company, okay? I see a 12 panel dashboard, 4 across and 3 down, okay? Each one of these panels has an underlying query, or it could lead to another dashboard. Now, when you're looking at this dashboard, let's imagine a stoplight, okay? Green is good, yellow is, hey, I need to investigate it, maybe warning, or keep my eye on it. But red, I need to find out there's a problem, okay? So we can see that there's green here. There's some service nodes looking good. My VPC looks good, database looks good. But I do see that there's a checkout service that has some problems. So this might be something that I need to, in effect, yeah, I need to look in and find out and investigate. Okay, now let me digress for a moment. I went a long way to get here. I talked about initially alerts. So let's go to our alerting system. Okay. So in my alert system, again, I'm looking at my production environment. All right. And I'm looking at prod 9. So I can see in my Slack environment that there's an alert here for production server number 9. I can click on that, go down to the latest message, and I can see that there was some gateway response time outliers. So there's something going on with my gateway, okay? This could have been my first approach. I could have clicked on the Go Operational Overview. It's gonna take me to the same place that I went into initially, okay? 6 in one hand, half a dozen in the other. What that means is you could have used either one of those methods. So this is the same actual dashboard that I came into and drilled down into, okay? Now, as I mentioned, the checkout service has tons of errors and it's red. So I need to investigate. So if I click on that, one of the features that you can do in our tool is you can create that drill effect. What do you mean, Odell? I mean, you can click on this dashboard panel and it takes me to another dashboard panel where I have 6 panels on this dashboard, okay? Now, again, digressing, I could have in my Slack clicked on the Go Services detail and went there right away, okay? So again, I'm just showing you multiple ways to investigate. You can get alerted and maybe a Slack alerting, or you could have went into the actual tool and went to that dashboard, okay? Anyhow, so we initially started out with that operational overview. I drilled into my checkout service because I want to find out more information. So now I'm in the services detail, and within this dashboard, I can find out my bookings, any errors over the last 7 days, my latency. And one of the other features that you have within our tool is our dashboards are actually interactive. So for example, I see everything was good. Remember, green is good. Everything's going along fine. And then all of a sudden I get 160 messages and so forth and so on. One of the things that I can do is I can be interactive with my legend and turn off successes and focus on the failures. Okay, so again, just showing you, demonstrating a 500-foot overview of a demo of monitoring and investigating. Okay, now I can see my CPU and my total memory had some spikes and peaks here, as well as my latency. Now, this particular panel does not have any other dashboard underneath it. But what I'd like to do is actually see the underlying metrics. So right in the top right corner of this CPU and total memory, I'm going to click on this icon. Okay, that icon takes me to my actual metrics of my CPU and my total memory. Let's talk about what you're seeing here. You're first seeing a heat map. Okay, that heat map represents, as it gets darker, you get more messages, lighter, fewer messages. So the heat map actually displays in a progression. Now, I'm emphasizing that in case you take an exam one day and that question comes up, you'll know that the heat map is what you'll utilize to kind of find out the progression of your messages, whether you have more or not. It's based on how darker the color is, okay? What are we viewing here, Odell? We're viewing our CPU and our memory, okay? You'll notice down at the bottom here, we have a source category, and I'll talk about this coming up. It's a metadata tag. That metadata tag is equating to my production 9 travel checkout. That's where the logs or the metrics are that I'm actually viewing, okay? I'm also using a keyword. Now, one of the other techniques that you can utilize in our tool is, I want to see the underlying query, okay? So I can use my shift and my left mouse key and open up the actual query. Odell, I'm confused. What are we doing here? Well, we know that there was a problem because we looked at Slack, okay? When we looked at Slack, we saw that there was some issues with our checkout service. We clicked on our checkout service panel. It actually led us to another dashboard. This dashboard has more information on it. We wanted to focus in on our CPU and total memory. So we actually click on this icon to see the actual metrics, okay? Now, once we saw the metrics, we then want to actually query the logs, okay? Now, let's see what you're seeing. And I'm going to explain this. You're going to have time to kick the tires and look at all of this shortly, okay? So what you're seeing here is that you see a metadata tag that's equal to the production 9 travel checkout service, okay? It has a keyword, error or exception, okay? So what's going to return when I run this, you'll see errors or exceptions highlighted throughout my query. And let me go ahead and change the time here right now, okay? And we'll talk about the time as well. So if I were to go through here, I would see errors and exceptions highlighted. But if I want to see all of my messages, I can get rid of the error and exceptions. And again, my goal here is to find out why it happened, okay? So now I'm going to run this with all messages being returned, okay? Now I see there's one of 1,119 pages of messages, okay? I see that the time and the message are being displayed. So I see the time and the message. I want to use a technique that goes through all of these 27,000 results and find patterns and push those patterns together. I don't want to have to look at each one of these 1,119 pages. So I want to utilize some of that machine learning. So I'm going to use a feature called the log reduce, where it actually goes through and find matching patterns and groups them together, okay? You'll notice my actual query expression changed. It's now piping a log reduce operator. Again, This is just a demonstration, ladies and gentlemen. I'll get you into the tool, get your feet wet shortly, okay? So what it's doing right now, it's going and finding those patterns that are alike, okay? It's done gathering results. It took about 26 seconds and I have over 27,000 results, okay? What I'm seeing here is a messages tab where I have my original messages, but I now have a signatures tab. That signatures tab was generated with this log reduce operator. And what I'm seeing here is, hey, when I go through here, I see that this expression is in my logs over 10,000 times. So maybe this is not something I have to look at 10,000 times anymore, okay? And I can see other expressions. One of the features that you can do within our tool is you can click on the column header to change the sort. Right now it's in the descending sort order. I want to change it. I want to see something that's less frequently done, okay? So when I go through here, I look in here and I see success, I see credit, see some information, but again, I'm trying to find out why this happened. So I'm looking through here, seeing my messages, okay, get in here. A lot of these are groupings. I see a lot of the same information. So I'll keep going. And eventually I'll get to a scenario where it's going to tell me what my issue is. And it looks like they changed this a little bit. Okay, here we go. So I eventually get down to this particular expression, which is actually happened twice. Okay, it says info boot 27 travel logic app started the cluster. The service is checkout. The version is 1.14 dev. Wait a minute. Does anyone see anything wrong with this expression here? You can shout out if you want to.
You're supposed to be in the prod environment.
Excellent,
version
very
is
good.
that.
Excellent. Someone promoted a dev version in a production environment. That allowed me to figure out what the problem was. Thank you very much. All right, so that was my spiel on the actual demo. Let's get back to our lecture here. So let's talk about what I just did. I talked about Slack and being alerted. I was able to look at a dashboard and drill into that dashboard to look at my metrics to find out what's going on. I noticed that my CPU and my memory had spikes and peaks. Then in order to identify why it happened, I had to look at the logs, okay? So again, alerting, identify what, identify why. In case that ever happens to be on a question in an exam somewhere, you'll know, okay? All right, now let's continue on. Sumo Logic data flow, all right? I want you to, if you would, imagine a highway. On one end of the highway is the Sumo Logic cloud-based environment. On the other end of the highway is your logs and your metrics. Somehow we have to use something that's going to get your logs and metrics into our Sumo Logic environment. That somehow, or that something, that vehicle is called a collector, okay? A collector defines sources. Sources where your logs and your metrics, okay? Your S3 buckets or your database logs or what have you, okay? So again, the first step is to define a collector and your sources. If you want to learn more about collectors, we offer an administration course that talks about creating collectors, okay? Once we have your logs and metrics, we can now search and analyze through those logs and metrics, utilizing operators and displaying our results in different types of charts. we'll build those charts into dashboards and visualizations that would allow us to monitor as well as create alerts. That's the flow, ladies and gentlemen. Your data gets into our environment. You can search and analyze to find out the what and the whys. You can display that in dashboards and set up alerts. Now, this slide sort of looks overwhelming. Don't let it knock you out. Let's divide this slide into two halves, okay? Let's first talk about, here's our Sumo Logic environment up top. You'll have an installed collector half and a hosted collector half. Let's talk about the installed collectors. If you wanted to install a collector on all of your servers in a distributed approach, you could do that. That collector is going to encrypt, compress, and send your actual logs and metric up to the Sumo Logic. So this is a distributed approach where you're installing a collector on multiple servers. Okay. Maybe you want a centralized installation where you have one machine that has the collector on it and all of your logs and metrics are feeding to it. Our collector actually encrypts, compresses, sends it up through the firewall up into our Sumo Logic environment. So again, either a distributed approach or maybe you have a centralized approach. Again, learning about collectors is in our administration course. I'll demonstrate where you can find those courses as well. Now, on the other half, a hosted collector. There's no installation. If your logs and metrics are on AWS, Azure, or in Salesforce in a suite, if they're in the cloud, basically, ladies and gentlemen, then all you're doing is defining, giving us the actual security information and the location of your logs and metrics. There's nothing to install. So there's two types of collectors, ladies and gentlemen. There's the installed and the hosted. Depending on where your logs and metrics are, is going to be your approach. Speaking of collectors, okay, we use metadata tags, okay? What you're seeing on the screen is 5 types of metadata tags, okay? You could utilize the underscore collector metadata tag, and maybe you define the name of the collector or the host name. That's a broad approach, but it'll work, okay? Maybe you want to use a underscore source name metadata tag, where you're naming the path of the log file. That approach will work as well. But what you'll notice at the bottom here, one that is bold, that's our preferred method. That's the recommended approach, using the underscore source category metadata tag. So we could actually utilize the underscore source category metadata tag by equating it to labs Apache access. Or maybe you want to equate it to labs Apache era. Or maybe you want to equate it to prod or dev. One of those types of approaches. Again, it can be freely configured. You're going to see us utilize that metadata tag most often. Okay. All right, so enough of me lecturing now. We are going to invite you to log into our training environment. What I'd like for you to do first is think of a number from 1 to 999. Any number you want, okay? Think of that number, all right? And then I want you to put that number in the chat window so I can keep track of that, okay? While you're thinking of that number and putting it in the chat, I want you to also watch me as I log in, okay? So I will go to a service. You're gonna do the same thing, just kind of wait. You need a 3-digit number. Make sure it's 3 digits. So if you're gonna use 7, it'll be 007. You're gonna log in just as I'll put the credentials in the screen in 1 second. Just watch me first, please. So you're going to type in training plus analyst, your 3-digit number, okay, at Sumo Logic. Again, I will put the credentials in the screen in 1 second, .com. Then you're going to type in the password. I'm going to display the password as well. Okay, so again, you're going to follow this methodology and log in. Now, let me put the credentials in the chat window for each of you. You're thinking of your own 3-digit number. Okay, let me get that in there for you. Real quickly. All right. And there you have it. So everyone go ahead and use your 3-digit number with the credentials. Again, remember, ladies and gentlemen, you're logging into our training environment. We've populated the data. We know what's in there. We're not logging into your production or your dev environment. We don't know what's there. Okay. Now, once you've logged in, please go ahead and raise your hand that you've logged in successfully. No worries, Benjamin. Okay, I won't go any further until we get everyone in because I don't want to leave anyone behind. So again, go ahead and raise your hand if you've logged in. If you're having any problems, please let me know. Again, you're in our training environment. If you have any issues, it's probably you can choose another number or something like that. 3-digit number. Okay, so about 13 of us, 14 of us are in, 15, okay, getting better. So what we're gonna do, once you log in, ladies and gentlemen, we're gonna kick the tires. We're gonna look under the hood. We're gonna roll the windows down. We're gonna drive the car around the block. I use that analogy with students to let them know, when you're learning something new, take a minute, you click on things, and that's what we're gonna do. But I wanna make sure everyone's in first, okay? If you're having problems, please let me know. All right. Looks like about 19 of us are in there. And just another couple seconds to see if anyone has any issues. All right. So hopefully everyone's in. Now, let me just kind of give you a little lay of the land before you start doing anything, if you haven't already. You notice when I log in, I have a bunch of tabs up top. Someone else may have used the number, okay? If you don't have this, no worries. But in order to get rid of all the tabs, I can just click on any of one of the tabs or hover over the 3 dots in any one of the tabs, and I can choose close all tabs. That's only if you have that scenario, okay? So let's also talk about this here left panel over here. Some of you may have came in and you see the phrase Sumo Logic and you see the 3 stacks of pancakes there. If you click on that, that displays our navigation panel. You click on the arrow, it hides the navigation panel, okay? So we want our navigation panel displayed, okay? We're just kicking the tires. We're not doing anything yet, just getting comfortable with the actual environment, okay? Under the Sumo Logic logo, you'll see the actual 4 folders, okay? The recent folder are recently opened dashboards, recent searches, or things that have been recently shared with you. Maybe someone, your administrator, shared something. This is where you would find it, in your recent folder, in case that happens to come up on a test or something, okay? To the right of that is your favorites folder. This is if you favorite something, this is the folder that it'll be in. To the right of that is your personal folder, okay? In your personal folder, you can or in any folder, if you see an asterisk by it, you can favorite something. I'm just demonstrating how you favorite something. So now not only is this dashboard in my favorites, it's also still in my personal. I can remove it by clearing the favorites. Another thing about favorites, ladies and gentlemen, when you create and save something, it'll be stored in your personal folder. And you're going to see that as we start building things. Then lastly, over to your library. If someone shared something with the entire organization, admin maybe recommended some things, you can consume these as well. Okay. Down below, this darker shaded area, we refer to that as our main menu. Okay, so this is our navigation panel, 4 folders, main menu. Now, let's go over to the right. You have 3 tabs. You have your home tab, you have your library tab, and you have your alerts tab. We're going to spend our time on the home tab. Under the home tab, you have 3 links. You have your home link. You're seeing recently opened dashboards, recommended, recently run searches, etc. Okay. To the right of the home link is the learn link. Maybe you want to find out more information about Sumo Logic and your data. We've provided micro lesson videos here on this learn link. And also, ladies and gentlemen, be aware, there's a plethora of YouTube videos on Sumo Logic as well. Okay. Now, again, we're on our learn link under our home tab. If you scroll down under the actual micro videos, you'll see that we have our hands-on labs for fundamentals. We're going to come back to that, and we're going to do those 7 labs. Okay. If you come back and take the administration course with instructor-led or self-service, these are the actual labs for administration. Okay. So we give you a starting point, so to speak. Over to the right, you'll see that we have a cheat sheet. Now, during my actual slide presentation, I talked about operators. Okay, if I click on that log operator cheat sheet, it gives me a list, a description, an example of some of the operators. Okay, I am closing that tab that launched on my operators and going back to the CIP. Again, we're just kicking the tires, getting comfortable with the environment. Our documentation, our full documentation is out there for you, okay? There's multiple ways to get to the documentation, okay? This is one way, okay? Now, I want to digress for a moment here. You're seeing, if you want to learn more about searching, we have a search mastery course, okay? Here's our administration course about collectors and things of that sort. But what I would suggest, if you're new to the tool, is maybe you start here. Okay, when you click on the start here, it gives you your main menu, and maybe you want to go into your quick start labs and tutorials. This is just maybe you want to do that. We, of course, are taking the fundamentals. There's the administration and other course tutorial trainings here as well. Okay, I am closing that tab and going back to the CIP. As I mentioned, there's multiple ways to get to our actual documentation. I just want to digress and show you one other way. You can always use help, sumologic.com. Ladies and gentlemen, this might be something you might want to use as well when it comes to taking the actual exam. So there may be questions you have or you need to answer, like parse operators, metadata tags, things of that sort. You click on here and there's help there for you. It'll help you answer that question. Okay. I am closing this tab and going back to the CIP. Again, we're looking at our home tab, Learn link. We just looked at our documentation. It's a good idea to keep abreast of what's new. So again, you can always click on the what's new, find out what's coming down the line. You might want to issue you might have a problem, you might need to issue an actual ticket to support. So you can ask support. Maybe you want to take some more classes. Clicking on the Get Training will launch our LMS system. And here you can see we have other upcoming trainings like our Search Mastery. We have that too. We typically offer these courses twice a day, okay? So we had a fundamentals this morning, again, this one, and then we'll have Search Mastery. Kubernetes is coming up on Thursday. So again, you just click on and register within here, okay? I am closing this tab and going back to the CIP. Our community, again, other Sumo users share and ask questions out in the community. All right. Something that people often ask that's important is, hey, Odell, I'd like to log out and log in again. How do I do that? Great question. In your navigation panel, in your main menu, if you ever clicked on your name or the user that you're using, it expands and shows you other links. This is how you would sign out, okay? So again, by clicking on that in your main menu, the user you logged in, you'll be able to sign out that way, okay? All right, very good. Now, let's say that you say, hey, Odell, I wanna hear the video again, or I wanna download the actual lab guide or the slides. Okay, let's do that. So I'm now clicking on the certification link under my home tab. I'm clicking on the Get Certified. That takes you to our Skill Jar app. And here is where I can get the other videos or the videos. So I can go to the recorded live training. Once I go there, I can see all of our trainings out here. We're dealing with the fundamentals. So we can click on the fundamentals. It might ask you to register. There's a video, the same video that this 2-hour video lecture that I'm doing, my manager is doing right there. Same lecture, okay? Now, over to the right, you'll see you have the fundamental slides. You have the student guide available to you, okay? So again, Odell, how did you get there again? In the CIP, I clicked on certification, clicked on Get Certified. It launched our LMS system. I chose the discipline that I want to learn more about, and that led me to the video and the slides and the student guide, okay? All right, I am closing the actual tab of the skill jar. All right, very good. As I mentioned, we're going to spend our time on the actual Learn link on the Home tab. Let me get back to the slides for a second. All right. You've logged in already, so we're going to find out what data we can analyze, okay? So we're going to also search and parse, and we'll do all of that coming up now. Now, I want to demonstrate a technique that you can utilize as well. So down in the bottom where you see, again, you're on your Learn link, we're under our fundamentals, you'll see Lab 1, viewing data, okay? One of the techniques you can utilize, since we're going to be toggling back and forth, if you're in a Windows environment, you can right-click on that tab and pin it, okay? So that way you can toggle between the lab guide and the actual CIP, okay? I will paste the actual lab guide in case some of you can copy. I'll paste the actual lab guide in the actual chat for you. All right, let's go ahead and get started with the lab. Lab guide, lab number 1, viewing the data. You've already signed in. What we'd like to do now is see what data is available to us, okay? What we mean by that is maybe our administrator has created a collector that has all of our sources in it already. So we want to see if our actual source has been defined, okay? So together, ladies and gentlemen, let's go back to this. Let's go back in the CIP if you're not already there. Make sure your navigation panel is expanded, and be aware you can resize the panel by moving your mouse in the center bar here, and you'll notice your mouse changes, okay? We're in our navigation panel. Let's go down to the main menu, okay? In the main menu, we see a link that reads Manage Data. Let's click on that Manage Data link. Under that Manage Data, we see some sublinks. Let's click on our collections. Now, I know this looks sort of overwhelming, but let's not let it overwhelm us. What I like to do first when I come in here, because everything is expanded, all of my collectors are expanded, I go and choose where it says expand, I choose none. So basically that collapses all of the collectors, okay? All right, let's take a look and see what we have here. So we have different types of collectors that are being created. We have the health of that collector. You know, red means, hey, I need to go investigate, figure out what's going on. Green is good. We see the type of collectors. There's hosted and installed. You know, hosted means it's in the cloud somewhere already. Installed means it's on a physical server where I had to install an actual collector, okay? Then over to the right, you see how many source categories have been defined, how many sources have been defined under the collectors. Then you see any activity within the last hour. Then you see the total amount of messages. I'm going to go ahead and expand this here coffee one here just to kind of see what's in here. All right, so here, this is a good one here. All right, so if I expand this collector, again, we're just kicking the tires, ladies and gentlemen, just trying to figure out what's going on. Deborah, you have a question? Go ahead. Oh, okay, inverted hand raise. Okay, no worries. All right, so again, we're just viewing the sources that have been created. All I did, ladies and gentlemen, was click on a collector that I see has a lot of sources in it. So to kind of give you a high level overview. So I'm just expanding that collector, okay? So this collector is defining my API server metrics. It has an event metrics in there. It has Kubernetes in here. It has different types of sources defined, okay? I can see that there has been some activity and there's over 18,000 messages that have been ingested, okay? Let's look at another one here, maybe. And again, I have 18 pages of collectors. You're in our training environment. And let's look at another one here. So here's another one that I expanded. Again, it's kind of the same that I had before. I wanted to give something a little bit more unique, but no worries. Oh, here's one. Let's look at this labs. This one here, this works fine here, perfect. So in here, I have my labs Apache or my labs Akia, all of my labs Akia information where I'm getting my requests, my Apache, my PHP errors. So again, this defines different logs and metrics that have been ingested into the Sumo Logic environment. Over 8,000 messages have been ingested, okay? Again, if you want to learn more about collectors and creating collectors, you want to come back and take the administration course. You can see that you're not able to create a collector because, again, an analyst typically doesn't do that, usually an actual administrator. And again, we're not administrators in this class. All right, let's go back to our actual lab guide. So we saw what's available. There's another way we can find out and see the same data sources. We could actually run a query. So in your lab steps, if you would go to step number 4, again, they're numbered, step number 4 here, and highlight that expression and copy it. Okay, we want to copy that because we're going to paste it over in an actual lab. Okay, so again, you're on lab 1, viewing the data. We're on step number 4, and we're highlighting, copying that expression. Let's go back to the CIP. We no longer need this collections tab. Remember, we're not getting rid of anything. We're just closing it out. We can always go back to our manage data and open that again. Okay. What we want to do now is we want to click on the blue new button. So the actual lab manual, you can click on right down here, Mohammed. If you click right down here on fundamentals and you click on that first link, it should launch for you, okay? If that doesn't work, the other approach, you can go to certification, get certified. Go to recorded live training, click on the fundamentals, and then here's the lab guide as well. Okay. Did that help you? You're welcome. All right. So let's get back here. All right, let's close out of that. All right. So, ladies and gentlemen, we had just copied this step. We're back in the CIP. We were about to click on the new button here. Okay, we closed all the tabs, kind of make it less confusing for us. So we click on the new button and we want to create a new log search. Okay. Now, notice when I place my cursor into the query area, it gives me starting points. I could click these and build my expression. I'll demonstrate that later. But let's go ahead and paste the actual expression that we have copied. And let's sort of understand what's going on. Some of you may be familiar with SQL, and you know that the star means a wild card. So it means that in our tool as well. It has similar features as SQL. So we're saying here, we want to count up all of our source categories. By default, ladies and gentlemen, when you issue a new log search, it's going to have a time of the last 15 minutes. Okay, we'll talk about changing that, etc. Again, we're going through the demo in lab 1. So let's go ahead and run it with the blue magnifying glass there. That runs the actual query. Okay. Now let's see what we have here. By default, you're going to get a histogram. Okay. May not be meaningful to you right now, so you can hide it if you wanted to. Hide and show is over to your right there. We see down underneath the histogram, we see the status is done, the elapsed time, and the total results. Now, your numbers may not be exactly like mine. That's not important, ladies and gentlemen. What's important is that we issued a command, okay? Now, we notice we have 2 tabs here. We have a messages tab where we see our actual time and message. We see the time that it happened and the physical message, okay? There's over 41,000 pages, okay? If I wanted to change the amount of pages that are being displayed, because right now I'm seeing 1 of 25 on a page. So if I wanted to change that, I would click on the gear symbol and I can change my preferences. Okay, but by default, you're going to see 25 per page. Okay. Now, this aggregates tab was initiated because we use the count operator. So when you use any type of aggregation, you're going to initiate an aggregates tab. Okay. So if we click on this aggregates tab, we can see our source categories by name and the total amount of messages ingested by each source category. Okay, so this was another way of viewing the actual source categories. Okay, all right, let's go back and take a look at our steps. We did that. Okay, now
I have a question.
yes, sir.
Sorry to interrupt, but
No worries.
since you're only looking back 15 minutes, right? Is it possible that you miss out a source category if a log for that source category hasn't shown up yet?
It's possible, but you can always change your time, and I'm going to get to that shortly, but that's a great question.
Would looking at it through the collections be always complete?
Yes, because again, the collector exists right there. Whereas a query, someone could actually, your actual administrator could actually be creating something while you're running this query. So it is
Okay.
possible. Yeah, it's possible.
Thank you.
Yeah, good question. Thank you. All right, now back here on our lab steps, suppose we're interested in log messages from Apache Access, which is listed as one of our source categories. We can start to creating queries to find messages that we're interested in, but that might not be necessary, okay? Maybe someone in our organization shared some saved searches and dashboards for Apache Access. Maybe someone did, okay? But what if they didn't? We also have applications, apps. We have tons of apps that are a good starting point for you, okay? So we're gonna go through two scenarios. Right now, we're down at the bottom of lab 1, find and display shared dashboards. So again, let's imagine someone shared a dashboard or some searches with us. Let's go and find it. So together, we'll go in back to our CIP. Make sure your navigation panel is visible. Make sure you're on your library folder. And the search area, in case this ever comes up, is case insensitive. So let's type in Apache Access and hit the enter key. So let's look at one of those folders that have Apache Access in it. Let's take the top one and expand it. Someone shared this Apache Access folder with us, okay? We expand it and we see that it has a dashboard in it. Let's go ahead and click on that dashboard. So someone shared this with us, okay? It has several panels on it. But what if what they shared, they customized? So it's not as pristine as actually using the original app. And you're going to see what I mean shortly. So first of all, realize if someone shared something with you, you can go to your library. If somebody shared with you, go to your library and search for it. That's the first thing to realize, okay? Let's say that it wasn't there. We couldn't find anything, okay? Continuing on here. Right now I'm under install an app and view the content, okay? Go ahead, question, Deborah. Okay. All right, so again, we're under the install the app and view the content. If the dashboard doesn't show you the type of information you're looking for, or if your library search didn't find any useful shared searches, it's a good idea to install the Apache Access app. Sumo Logic apps deliver out-of-the-box dashboards, save searches, and field extractions for popular data sources. They're the best way to start exploring a new data source on your own. So that's what we're going to do now, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to ingest a new app. Okay, so going back to the CIP here. Again, you're in your navigation panel, but now we're going to go down to our main menu. Now, if you want to know the behavior, you notice I clicked on manage data and it was still expanded. If you click on the name again, it collapses it. Okay, we're in our main menu. We want to look at all the apps that Sumo Logic provides. So we click on the app catalog. You can filter by category as well. We want to search for Apache case insensitive. It filters down with anything with the word Apache in it. We, of course, want the feathered one, so we'll click on the Apache app. Tells you right there, hey, this Apache app is a unified logs and metrics app that helps you monitor the availability, the performance, the health, the resource utilization of your Apache web servers. Okay, so this is perfect. This is a more pristine one. It hasn't been altered. The one that we consumed, it could have been altered. The one that we actually went to our library and found, it could have been altered. So we're going to install the fresh Apache app. So let's go ahead and click on install together. Go ahead and add your initials to the Apache app. And I'll go ahead and add, you don't need to add the date. I do this quite often, twice today already. So just add your initials. That's fine. Underscore initials, fine. Okay. Under the Apache log source, we're going to change by using the drop down from source category to enter a custom data filter. So we're changing the actual log source here. Now, to make things easier for us, we can go back to our lab steps. We can go down to number 4. Okay, go to number 4, step 4 there. And we can highlight the actual web server underscore system equals Apache. If you highlight and use the highlighting, make sure you don't copy the period at the end of the sentence. You could also type this, if you type it correctly, web server underscore system equals Apache. I'm just going to copy it to make it easier for myself. Go back to the CIP. Right where it equals, I will paste, or you will type in web server underscore system equals Apache. We're adding a custom filter. Then we're going to go ahead and add to library. Pop quiz, pop quiz. Where can we find this object? Which folder? Which folder would we find this object?
Your personal.
Excellent, very good. Thank you, sir. Your personal folder. Remember, Odell said that earlier, when you create something and save it, it's going to be stored in your personal folder. I just need to clean up a little bit, get this stuff out of here. Okay. All right, we could be sharing the same number, but you use your initials, so that's awesome. No big deal there. All right, now, if we want to share this with someone, we have that ability as well. But let's expand this and let's look at the actual Apache overview. Again, we get a fresh, clean app using our data, okay? All right. As I mentioned, if you wanted to share this, Again, you go up to the folder, and we're doing this part together. We're clicking on the 3 dots, which is our more, and we're choosing the phrase share. Now you can share with groups, roles, or specific users, okay? So when this share comes up, you see right under there, it says users and roles. If we click on that, it gives us a choice: the entire organization, the roles that have been defined, and users. We, in this example, are going to go ahead and choose our entire organization, okay? It may prompt you to choose something else. You can click in the background to turn that off, okay? Now, in case this ever comes up on an exam somewhere, the access is view, edit, and manage. There's no delete, there's no read, there's no zipping. It's view, edit, and manage, okay? Now let's go ahead and share that. Odell, when we share something, where will users be able to find it? Any questions there? Any idea where users will be able to find it, ladies and gentlemen? Any idea where they'll be able to find
Recent.
it?
Library.
folder.
Did I hear someone say a shared folder? There's no shared folder.
The library, right?
Library.
Recent.
I'm in the library. Yeah.
All right.
Isn't it your recent?
So if you look in your recent here, I don't see it at all. But if you go in your library and you type in Apache, you should see it somewhere down in here. Access. Okay. All right, back here to our labs. So you shared it. Okay, that's what the, yep, did all of that. All right, so congratulations, ladies and gentlemen. You were able to sign in the Sumo Logic in our training environment. You were able to search for source categories by going to the main menu, going to the collectors. You also were able to create a query, a log query, been searching for all categories. We searched for and viewed a dashboard that had been shared with us by our organization, and we installed an app and shared it with others. And we opened one of the dashboards, okay? All right, let's go ahead and take a quick 5-minute break to breathe, exhale, stretch, get some coffee. I'll put up the timer and we'll come back in 5 minutes. Okay, welcome back. Hopefully we got an opportunity to stretch, breathe, get away from the computer for a minute. All right, so we just completed lab number 1. Let's continue on with our labs. In our lab guide, in the bottom right corner, you'll see the ability to go to the next lab. So we want to go to lab 2 to search for log data. So let's click on that link. All right, so we want to go ahead and build a search. We're going to search for log messages within a source category that include the keyword get. So under number 2, let's go ahead and highlight that query and copy it. Let's go back to our CIP. If you have a bunch of tabs open, we can go ahead and click on any one of the 3 dots in any one of the tabs and close all tabs. Okay. Let's go ahead and click on the blue new button, new log search. And let's paste in our expression. Now, I want to digress for one moment. You leave yours as it is. I want to demonstrate how I could have easily clicked on source category, start typing in labs, Apache, And I can easily have clicked and grab this. See how it helps type ahead for me? So again, you could have used that approach as well, okay? Again, I'm digressing to help you understand the environment. All right, let's take a look at the actual query for a second. It's using that preferred metadata tag, source category. It's equating it to Labs Apache Access. It's using an implied operator. The and is implied. So if I didn't have this and there, it would still work. And we're using the keyword get. So from our logs, we want to see all of the get messages. Now, over to the right, someone asked about the time. As I mentioned, by default, each log is going to be the last 15 minutes. But let's say that you wanted to change the time. If you click in that area, you'll have predefined relative times that you can choose from. If you've used this environment, you would have a recent tab. If you haven't used the environment, you won't have a recent tab. These are recently times that you use, recent times that you use. Or you can go to the custom and maybe you want to use a date and time, okay? We're going to go ahead and set this up for the last 60 minutes, okay? So I can easily choose my relative times and choose 60 minutes. But Odell, what if I wanted 45 minutes? That's a great question. Great point. You also have the ability, ladies and gentlemen, to type in here. You have to start out with a minus symbol. And let's say I wanted 45, I would use M for minutes, H for hours, and D for days. So again, I also have the ability to type in here. I have to remember the actual syntax. It starts out with a minus symbol. I digressed. Again, we're going to change ours to 60 minutes. Okay, then we're going to click on the blue run. Okay, so let's take a look at what we have here. We have our histogram over the 60 minutes. Again, we can hide that if we wanted to. Below the histogram, we see the status is being done. We see the elapsed time, pardon me, and we see the total amount of results over 30,000, okay? In our field browser, we see the time and the message. We see that we have one of over 1,219 pages. Again, the number is not, if your number is not like mine, that's not the major point here, okay? Again, you have the ability to change the number of being displayed. Right now, I'm seeing 25 per page. If I wanted to, I can go to the gear symbol and change that, okay? All right, very good. It's going back to the lab. So we brought our results in, did 60 minutes. Okay, now something very important and useful. This will be helpful for you, okay? The parse anchor operator, okay? So parsing makes your search results much easier to scan and interpret. We're going to parse our log message for the information that follows the get, okay? It's going to build a new query. We're going to parse out for the URL, the status code, the size, and the referrer, okay? I want you to watch, then do. So let's go back to our CIP, okay? Now, I see the first message here. You're going to watch me first. I'm using a parse anchor. There's other parse operators. We're using a parse anchor because our messages are all formatted the same. That means objects are in the same place everywhere. What if they weren't in the same place, Odell? Then we wouldn't use a parse anchor. We'd probably use a parse regex. Okay, again, you can find information about operators. I showed you in the cheat sheet. Anyhow, I want you to watch me first. So using a parse anchor, I am going to anchor on something that's not going to change. So in this expression, the double quotes to the left of the get is not going to change. So I'm going to go ahead and click on the quotes, and then I'll go all the way to the end of the actual expression. Okay. San, we were able to search within a collector. When you mean a collection, you don't have that ability to search within it, but you can search within a actual source category, not a collector, if I understand your question correctly. All right, so let's everyone make sure you highlight, again, you're anchoring on the double quote, you're highlighting all the way to the actual referring website, okay? So hopefully yours looks similar to mine, okay? Next, we're going to right click on that phrase that we have highlighted. And we're going to choose parse selected text. Odell, what are we doing? Well, ladies and gentlemen, what we're doing is we're trying to make it easier for us to search through all of these records. Remember, we have over 30,000 records. All right, so we want to help, we want the tool to help us, okay? So in our expression, let's go ahead and grab that HTTP and highlight it. So you're just hovering, you're dragging your cursor over it, okay? Now you'll notice there's a yellow phrase there that says, click to extract this value. Now, when you're using a parse anchor, ladies and gentlemen, you're using it because all of your log messages are formatted the same way. So this parse anchor is position based. So if something's out of position, it's not going to work. Okay. So I have this website highlighted. I'm going to click on the yellow phrase, click to extract this value. When I click it, it replaces what I have highlighted with an asterisk. I now want to give that a field name. So I'm just going to type URL and add a comma because we're going to add more. That's why we're adding a comma. Odell, what are we doing again? You're going to see it shortly. Okay. Next, we're going to highlight that number, that numeric value right after that asterisk. We'll highlight it. Again, we see that yellow phrase, click to extract this value. We go ahead and click on it. We want to give it a field name. We're going to call this status code. And when you're using spaces, don't use spaces, use underscores. Okay, use underscores. So status underscore code. Add a comma after that. We want to get that number right after the status code and highlight it. Again, it reads, click to extract this value. We click it. We want to give it a field name. We're going to call that size and add a comma after that. Lastly, we want to highlight the referring website. Where did it come from? So we're going to highlight that web URL. Again, it's highlighted. I don't have the double quotes in there. Again, only values, only field names. Again, we click to extract this value, and we're going to call this refer. Odell, is there any magic to the names you use? No, we could have called them A, B, C, D, but it makes no sense. We want something that's going to be meaningful in case we share it with someone. Okay. Now we're done here. We can go ahead and click submit. Notice how your query has changed. It says now underscore source category equals labs, Apache access, and get. Remember, I removed the and, but that's implied. And we're saying we're going to parse our get messages and create 4 new fields: URL, status code, size, and refer. And watch the magic happen when you click on the blue run button. So now I still have my histogram. I see that it's done. I see the elapsed time, the total results. But notice in my display fields, I see now not only time and message are being displayed, but the referrer, the size, the status code, and the URL. This would be helpful to me if I were looking for a specific status code. I wouldn't have to go and look at all of the messages. I actually filtered that out by using a parse anchor. We use the pipe to continue the expression. We could have had this all on one line, but to make it easier to ingest and understand, we added another line. And I'll teach you how to do that real quickly. To add another line, if you're on a Mac, it's Shift Enter. If you're on anything else, it's going to be Alt Enter. Okay, but anyhow, I digress for a moment. We'll get back to that. But I just wanted to demonstrate the actual convenience of that parse anchor. Okay. All right, let's go back and see where we left off. Did all of that great stuff. Awesome, awesome, awesome. All right. Now, we want to save this search. As I mentioned, we could have used A, B, C, D as our actual field names, but that doesn't make any logical sense. So in case we want to save and share this, we created some logical names. Okay, let's go ahead and save this search. And we're going to just give it, I'll call it Apache status codes and our initials. So in order to save this search, you go over to the query area. To the right of the run button, you'll see either the icon, save as, or you can click on the 3 dots, which gets you the more, and do a save as. Okay, again, we'll call this our Apache status codes. And use your initials if you don't mind, please. And I'll use mine as well as the date. You don't have to put the date, ladies and gentlemen. All right. All right, so again, you can optionally put a description if you wanted to. There's the actual query itself. Again, we see it ran for 60 minutes. If we wanted to change that, we could do that as well. We're just gonna save this. Again, you already know the answer to that question, where it's gonna be stored at, in our personal folder. Okay, I want you to start being cognizant of the different colors. Our dashboards are purple and our queries are sort of an orangish color. Okay. All right. Lastly, we're going to share this. Are we gonna share it? No, it doesn't look like save. Nope, we're not gonna. All right, so pat yourselves on the back, ladies and gentlemen. You've completed the second part of this quick tutorial. Okay. You created a search query. You parse the message so they're easier to scan and interpret. And you save your search. Let's continue on. Let's go to charting our data with lab number 3. Charting our data with lab number 3. All right, now, let's build out our query using an aggregation statement to count the results, okay? And visualize the data by charting it, by creating a chart. Suppose you were wondering about your 404 errors and you want to learn more. Are they happening at once? We can find out by adding an aggregation statement to your query to help group and order the data so that the results are much easier to read. Again, all these techniques are to kind of help us read our log messages easier. All right. Let's go ahead and let's copy under step number 1 there. Let's go ahead and copy the count by status code. And let's go back to our CIP. Now, again, if you've tried this already and you placed your cursor at the end and you hit enter, you realize that all enter does is run the query, okay? If you want to get a hard line, again, and on a Mac, you're going to use shift return. So again, you're placing your cursor at the end of the parse statement. You're adding a new line, either shift return or alt enter. That'll get you a new line, okay? And then you're going to paste in your count by status code. Notice our operators, they're in a different color. That's important to kind of let you know that. Remember, I said any aggregation that you issue in your query is going to generate an aggregates tab. We're counting. So let's go ahead and run our query. All right, now yours may be different than mine. Again, I'm going to go ahead and copy this query just to kind of make sure I get some better results. I might have fat fingered it, so I'm just going to copy this query in here. From the lab, I'm copying the entire query so I can get more results. All right, so here you can see I have a large number of 200s, 304s, etc. So I get multiple results. If you want to do the same thing to get a lot of results, I'll paste that in the chat in case your query is only bringing up a little bit. It's because I fat fingered the actual parse. So again, that should help you if you're getting the same issues that I had. You still have your messages tab where your initial messages are, and you have your aggregates tab now, okay? Be aware, and remember, I talked about this, you can always click on the column header to change the sort, okay? There's also a sort by command or operator that you can use and put in your query as well, okay? All right, let's go back. All right, now let's find out when those status codes happened. We can use a time slice operator to find out and count the status codes over time in 1 minute increments, okay? What I'd like for you to do, ladies and gentlemen, before you highlight anything, I want you to go to step 2, and just highlight the last 2 statements, the time slice and the count by. Just highlight those last 2 and copy those. Okay. Now let's go back to the CIP and let's just highlight that count where it is, count by status code. Let's highlight that and let's paste. So let's kind of read this and see what's going on. So again, we're looking at our get messages. We've parsed out 4 fields. We want to render these results in 1 minute time slices. Now, take a look at the count by for a second. The count by says, hey, count by, and notice this time slice is a placeholder. That underscore is a placeholder because this is an operator. So again, we're using a placeholder to count by what's in the time slice and the status code. Okay, let's go ahead and run that. We see our 1 minute slices in our actual histogram. Mine is still processing. I'll look for the complete or done. There's the status being done. It took about 16 seconds. I have over 30,000 results, okay? Now, if you think about this for a second, if you wanted to do some comparisons or some analysis, or you want to identify some trends, a list is sort of difficult to do comparisons, analysis, or identify trends. It would be awesome if we could kind of make this look like an Excel layout where I have columns and rows. That would be awesome, Odell. Well, let's do it. Let's use the transpose operator. So in your steps, ladies and gentlemen, I'm under the transpose on your lab 3 chart your data. Go ahead and highlight under number 1, transpose, and we're going to copy that. We're going back to our CIP, going back to our query. Again, we want to add another line. We want to add it below there. So I'm going to use Shift Return. You would use Alt Enter if you're not on a Mac, and we're going to paste. And let's take a look at this statement. It says, transpose my time slice as a row, my status code as a column. That's perfect. That's what Odell said we could do. Let's run it and see how it looks. Because we want to do some comparisons, some analysis. We want to identify some trends. We want to get that row and column effect. And there you have it. We still have our messages tab where our original messages are. We have the aggregates tab, which was issued by the count. And now our actual display has been transposed where our time is on the rows and our actual status codes are on the columns. Now, in case this comes up on an exam somewhere, ladies and gentlemen, in the messages tab, if you wanted to export out your results, you would go to the gear symbol and export out. That's in the messages tab. In the aggregates tab, if you wanted to export out, you click on the export results. So first, be aware that you can export out in case that ever comes up on a quiz somewhere. Okay, you can export out. It's just a matter of which tab you're on how you're going to get to the export object. Okay, anyhow, I digressed. Now, this is great. Okay, we might want to display this in a chart. Okay, now you have several chart options. So again, I have a bar chart, I have an actual column chart, line chart, etc. Different types of chart to display my items. Okay, now let's say you said, Odell, yeah, I clicked on a chart, but I'd rather have the numbers. This first icon, this table icon, will get you back to those numbers. Okay, so let's choose a column chart. Now, remember when I did my demo, I talked about the dashboard and the actual legend being interactive. Our legends are interactive here as well. If I look here, these 200s are dominating my actual results. So I can click on the 200s and turn them off. Now I can see maybe my 304s are dominating. I can click on my 304s and turn them off. That's a manual process. Nothing's wrong with that, but I'd rather not my user have to be cumbersome with clicking on and off. I'd rather just show them what they need. Okay, let's build that. So back in your steps here, under the number 1, again, under create your chart, we're under that second number 1 there, okay? What we want to use here is under the add query, we're going to use the exclamation point, which is a not, okay? So we want where the status code is not 200 or not 304. Let's go ahead and copy that. Now, we want this where to be right under our parse statement, okay? So let's go back to the CIP. Let's place our cursor to the right of the parse statement, the end of the parse statement. And again, we're going to add another line. I'm using Shift Return You're using Alt Enter and I'm pasting. Again, it says, hey, Odell, yours might not say, hey, Odell, but it says, hey, Odell, parse out these fields where the status code is not 200 or not 304 in 1 minute time slices, count by them and display them. Let's run that. So if you look at your legend, you no longer see those numbers. Odell, I want to see the raw results again. Remember, that's this first icon, the table. Okay. All right, I'm putting mine back as an actual column chart. All right. Awesome. You're making excellent progress. You have aggregated your search results. You have used the transpose operator to make your results easier to read. And you created a chart of the results and you adjusted the legend to show only the data of most interest. Okay. Now let's go ahead and build a dashboard in lab number 4. We're building a dashboard in lab number 4. Now, let me remind you, ladies and gentlemen, when I did the demo, okay, I initially started out looking at the overview demo where I had 12 panels. Then I went into a more detailed dashboard where I had only like 6 panels. What I mentioned was that those panels represent an underlying query. So if you think about it for a second, we built a query, we displayed it, and we added to a dashboard that creates a panel to add to our dashboard. And we're building that now. Hopefully it'll come together shortly, okay? Now, we could look at the numbers all day, ladies and gentlemen, but be aware, the dashboards are the most powerful forensic tool that will allow you to visualize your results, okay? So by adding dashboards, again, we can see our results easier, quicker than looking at several thousand pages of numbers, okay? All right, we're gonna do this together. Let's go back to our CIP. And if you notice, all the way over to the right, above your legend is a phrase that reads, add to dashboard. Let's click on that phrase. You'll notice that it's creating a panel. Remember, I kept referring to that word, panel? Okay, now notice it automatically named it. Well, where did it get the name from, Odell? When we saved the query, it used that name that we saved the query under, okay? Now, if we all click together where it reads dashboard and just wait for a second, I want you to be aware of what's going on, okay? You see that the tool has now displayed all of the existing dashboards. So this would be a method of adding your panel to an existing dashboard. We could do that, okay? But we want to create a new dashboard. So let's go ahead and call this Apache status codes. And let's put your initials. And you'll notice as you start filtering down, you get uniqueness. Like, again, you get one item. That's what I want you to have on your screen right now before you start clicking ahead. Yours doesn't have to say OG, but again, with your initials, okay? You'll see it says, hey, Odell, you want to create a new dashboard. Absolutely. We're adding this panel to a new dashboard. Let's click on that create new dashboard together. The first thing I want you to do, ladies and gentlemen, the first thing I want you to do right here, if you don't do this, you're going to get an error. Turn off the create and new UI. The reason we're turning off is because our training environment has questions on the exam. So we want to stick to those questions that you can answer. So make sure you turn that off. If you didn't do it, go back to your query, add it to the dashboard, and do it again. Okay. All right, now we can now go ahead and click add. Now, if you got an error, again, you need to go back to the query, click on add to dashboard, give it a unique name, and make sure you turn off this gear symbol. Okay. Again, this is in our training environment. Now, getting back to where you should be, you're in the edit mode of your dashboard. You're in the edit mode. Okay. There's other things that we can do within this edit mode that we want to kind of show you here. Okay. So you see the phrase done editing, you see the actual filter, you see the share, the refresh, and over to the right of that, you'll see the more. Let's click on the more. Let's add a panel. Okay. This is more of a descriptive panel. It has two radio buttons on it, the title and the text. So we're going to call this status codes. Okay. We'll give it that title. We'll click on the radio button for text, and we're going to say this panel displays all of our status codes. Something simple, you know? Okay. And then submit. So now we have added another panel. Okay. Other things that you can do, ladies and gentlemen, I can left mouse click and grab, left mouse click and grab and drag. I can left mouse click and reorder. I can also resize by going to the corner hashes and resize. Okay. One other feature that you might want to explore is right now we're in a lighter theme. If we go back to the more, we can change and toggle theme where we get that darker, mysterious type theme. Okay. So again, go back and choose toggle, toggle, and get to that darker thing. Okay. Once you've completed editing, you click on done editing. Notice that in that more, you don't have those options anymore. So the first thing you're going to remember when you see this is, hey, in order for me to get those options that we had, I need to get in the edit mode. I'll click on the pencil and now I have those options. Okay. All right. We did the panel, did all of that, change the look and feel of it. Yep. All right, next we are going to share this object. Okay. So we can go right up to where we saw the pencil, go over to icons, and you see the share. It's the same share window we saw before. Okay, we can share with groups, roles, or individual users. We're going to go ahead and click in there where it says share this content, and we'll choose our entire organization. It prompts us to choose a specific user. We don't have to choose that. We can click off of it and go share. Okay. Awesome. Good job. You've completed part 4. You created a panel from a search result. You added it to a new dashboard. You also added a text panel. You changed the look and the feel of the dashboard, and you shared it with your organization. Okay. Let's continue on. Good job. Let's move on to lab number 5. Okay. We want to modify our dashboard. Now that we know how to create a dashboard and change the look and feel, let's see how we can change the content of the data panels. Okay. We're going to look at that Apache overview dashboard that was included in the Apache Access app. Okay. So we're going to go ahead and look at the visitors location. Okay. If you're in the lab steps, go ahead and scroll down to number 3, if you don't mind. go ahead and scroll down to number 3 in the lab steps and copy just the where. Just copy that, okay? All right, let's go back to the CIP. Let's go back, make sure you're in your personal folder. In your personal folder, you should see your Apache with your initials that you consumed from our actual apps. Let's expand that and let's click on the Apache overview dashboard. Okay. So there's several panels on here, but we want to focus on our visitors location. Okay, and if you take a moment here and kind of digress with me, you'll see that I can zoom in by scrolling, double clicking. I can left mouse and drag around. You can see there's values all around the world. There's messages coming in, or maybe this is people logging in from all parts around the world. They're logging in, okay? In this example, we want to focus on the United States, okay? So we're going to edit this panel. Again, you're at the visitor's location, go over to the 3 dots, the more, and choose the phrase edit. What we're showing you or demonstrating here is a feature where you can edit the actual panel. Notice we didn't open up a query log. We didn't launch that. We're right here in this panel. Now, the expression that we copied needs to go under our lookup. Why is that, Odell? Because this field that we're using doesn't exist in the query until after the lookup. So we want to add a line after the lookup. So I place my cursor at the end of the lookup statement, shift return or alt enter to add a new line, and paste that expression. Okay. Now we want to run by using the blue magnifying glass to run it. You should notice now we only see values. And if you zoom in and drag, don't be afraid to zoom in and drag over. You now see that we're only seeing messages that are coming from the United States. Okay. All right, very good. Now we need to also update our dashboard. So in the top right corner, we'll click on the phrase just above the run, update dashboard. So now we go back to our dashboard and now it utilizes the expression that we had and updates our actual display. All right. Let's go to lab number 6 to create an alert. We're going to utilize that visitor location again, but this time we need to open it in a search because we want to create an alert. Okay, so back here together, let's click on the 3 dots for our visitor's location, which is the more. And this time we will open in a search. We need to use this method because we're about to build an alert. In order to build an alert, we need to use either the save icon, the save as icon, or go to the more and choose save as. So let's go ahead and do that. Save as. It gives us the name of our actual panel, the actual code. What we want to go down is to the phrase schedule this search. Right now it says never. Once we change that by clicking the drop down arrow, let's change it to every 15 minutes. It gives us more options. We want to change the time range. So let's maybe run it for 60 minutes. Okay. We have different alert types. Right now, we're going to use an email. but we could use webhooks. We could use other types of alerting mechanisms. You can build a webhook to link to something else. Okay, but we're going to use email here. Okay, we'll type in recipient's name. Okay, and one more thing we want to grab from our lab. Okay, we want to go down to 6H. 6H. We're going to highlight and copy those variables. They're in a box there. They read search name, fire time, num raw results. Let's copy those variables. Go back to our CIP. And if you notice in the email subject, if I hover over or click there, you get a flyout window over to the right, and it kind of gives you the more information of what those variables will do. So let's highlight what's under email and let's paste in our search name, the fire time, and the num raw results. We're using variables for an email subject. Lastly, down at the bottom here, let's go ahead and we want our results as a CSV as well. And let's save it. Now, let me discuss how you turn it off. That's important, okay? You can either go over to your personal folder and click on the 3 dots and edit, or you can go up to the actual query. If it was still open, you can edit it that way. Either way, okay? So click on the 3 dots and choose edit. You'll go down to edit this search schedule, and you'll click in where it says run frequency and choose never. That turns it off, or you could delete it, okay? All right, very good. Now, if you ran it and it runs in about 15 minutes, you would see this was what it would look like. You would get your results, okay? Then also you would get your CSV. And I already demonstrate how you turn it off by editing the search. Okay, this last lab here, this last lab is really informational for you, okay? Remember, ladies and gentlemen, something very helpful for you might be the going to the website help.sumologic.com. Very helpful, okay? All right. Let's go back to my lab steps. Check the release notes. That's a good idea, good practice to keep that mindful. Search our documentation. That's another way to find things out, okay? Visit our Learn page. I talked about that. If you want to learn more, videos available. Going to the administration portion. You can always post a question on our Sumo community, okay? You can try our customer Slack channel as well, okay? You can log a support ticket, all right? I need to go over a few more things. I know I'm at the top of the hour. Just bear with me, ladies and gentlemen. Just a few more things I need to kind of point out to you. All right. Oh, this is important. Okay, this is important. There is a syntax to our query environment. Okay, we use the metadata by using a metadata tag and defining where it was going. We use keywords. Okay, the and is implied. You notice I remove my and. Okay, we parse out the fields that we need. We filter to limit our results. We count, sort, and limit to format. That's the behavior. That's the syntax you want to follow. Why? So you can narrow your search scope by using metadata, keywords, parsing. Remember I talked about the parse anchor? There's also the parse regex. There's other parse operators, as I mentioned. Filter, different filter operators, aggregates, Again, I talked about that. Remember, that's going to give you that aggregation tab and formatting. Okay. Again, we have other advanced analytics. We looked at the log reduce to identify those patterns, to find that needle in the haystack. Maybe you want to compare today's results to yesterday to see if there's any anomalies or to find out if there's a pattern going on. Or maybe you want to compare it to last week. You could use the log compare. The live tail, you could build a query for as your messages are being ingested into Sumo Logic. That's typically done by an administrator, not an analyst, okay? All right. The rest of this here, we've gone through. Yes, yep, went on through that. Perfect, awesome. All right, now, questions. Okay, well, it's time. It's time for you to go ahead and take the exam. There's 30 questions. So I'll be here for 60 minutes. Need a 75% to pass, which you guys can do. It's open resources. You know where the slides are. You know where the labs are, the documentation, the help, all that's available to you. Now, let me demonstrate what you need to do, ladies and gentlemen, before you start, okay? You, of course, need to first, let me get out of here. Let me go back to my labs here. Yeah, you first, ladies and gentlemen, need to log out of the training environment. Here's why. You don't want to be in our training environment to get certified because you're using a training ID. It'll say, congratulations, training analyst 313. You don't want that. So you want to log out. How do you log out? You click on the actual user ID and you sign out. Now you want to log into your company's Sumo Logic environment with your credentials. So I'm demonstrating that now. So I'm logging in to my company with my credentials. You would do the same thing to take the exam, okay? Let me close some of these tabs here. So once you log into your environment, you go to your home tab, you go to your certification link under the home tab. You click on get certified. Once you click on get certified, again, it takes you to the Skills Jar app, but again, you're logged in now as yourself. How do you know that? If you click on this little icon in the top right corner, that person icon, and you go to my profile, you'll see your credentials right there, okay? Once you pass the certification, I'm gonna tell you this ahead of time. Once you pass the certification, you go back to this my profile, you can add your certification to LinkedIn. Okay. All right. Now let me go back here. And so again, you want to take the certification, you come here to get certified, click on that. You choose the fundamentals exam, ladies and gentlemen. It may ask you to register. You'll click on registration. It takes about a second. Then you'll go ahead and start the assessment. Okay. Question number 1. Now we have over 1,000 questions in our bank. So I might give you this one just so you'll be able to understand it. True or false? When you search your logs, you can use wildcards in your keywords as well as your metadata tags. For example, underscore source category equals Apache and fail. That is true. You can do that. You can do that. Aggregation operators such as sum, count, average, min-max can be can be used to help chart your results. That's true. Okay. So my point here is you go through all of these. The key point here is at the bottom. You'll click next and submit. Of course, I didn't pass. You can take this test as many times as you like. You can choose to take it now, which is probably a good idea because it's fresh in your mind, or you can take it later, okay? All right, so I'm gonna stop my sharing and allow you all to go ahead and take the exam. Now, I wanna thank you all for allowing me to present to you on behalf of Sumo Logic and my other trainers here. We thank you. We look forward to seeing you in upcoming trainings as well. Good luck on the test and go ahead and have at it. I'll be here for an hour to assist.
Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
Yes, thank you.